Hey, hello again, and welcome to the channel Generation X Computers. My name's Glenn Ray, and I'm happy to be your host. Please bear with me. We're still working out how to use a camera and how to do some basic editing, so things are going to be kind of primitive compared to other professional channels. But each week, I'm going to try to show you guys different accessories for different computers. This week we're going to focus on the Atari 2600. And most of you know the Atari CX40 cartridges or controllers that were pretty standard, that some of the original had the center yellow lighting around the center, and that would be in this region, and some are clear. And that helps you date originals versus non-originals. These joysticks were released in 1983 and their model number is CX42. This was part of a covert project by Atari to take the 2600 to the next level. And they had a prototype of the 2700. I don't know the name of it. Sometimes they had a lot of different code names. But the problem was that they made these remote control joysticks so damn powerful that if you were in your house and your buddy 2 or 3 blocks away was playing a game, you could actually control their game from that far away. So the FCC said there's absolutely no way we're going to approve this. So that got kind of nixed. So that's why they made the Atari 2800 in Japan. The box is pretty basic, as you can see. It has a picture on the side, and each of the joysticks, consistent with the 80s. I'll show you. You can see in the picture, but they're pretty thick in the bottom because all the hardware for the remotes is there, and then they have an antenna that comes out that's flexible, and they work off 9-volt batteries, and they're pretty reliable. You can get about 9 to 10 hours battery life has been my experience. If I'm wrong, please enter it in the comments. I'm always welcome to feedback, whether it be positive or negative, but I'm just saying that's been my experience. The back of the box, pretty straightforward. You get 2 joysticks that are remote control. They have rubber antennas. They're much thicker and heavier weight-wise than your standard Atari remote control joysticks. And then there's a base station with an antenna that bends over and then folds up and extends like the old card antennas to pick up the signal. It runs off the original 2600 power supply, so you wind up plugging it into the back and then a cord from this into the 2600. And I'm actually going to show you how to hook them up. And kind of like a special treat, I'm going to show you an item called the audiovox, and that allows your Atari 2600 to have speech recognition with games. And there's a lot of homebrew games out there, and you can find those on Atari Age for sale. And I think those people do a wonderful job. I have one game that works with the Atari Vox. So they also made a generic version of these remotes. And this is the generic version that you can see. And this was from GameMate 2. And these were listed for Sears, Commodore, VIC-20, Atari 2600, and it's basically the same software. You have a base station, and then you get 2 joysticks with long antennas. So there's not much difference. Here you can see there's an antenna. I think the biggest difference was the price. I have a price on these. Let's see. I think this is from KV Toys for $70. And I can guarantee that's a markdown price. Now, if you went on the Atari eBay market, I don't think you should pay more than $50 for a complete set in the box working. Another good place to look is the Facebook Marketplace. I think that that's a phenomenal group of people, especially on Atari Age. And whatever your specialty is, Texas Instruments, ColecoVision, they have members and groups. So if you like try to hook these up and you're not sure and you have questions like I did, you can go to the Atari Age forums and tell them what's going on, and one of the guys will get on there and talk with you. So I'm going to go through how you hook this up. So you start with the basic base station, and like I said, you have an antenna that folds out and folds up. Then you have two plugs, and each of these plug into the joystick port in the back of the computer. So that's what I'm going to do now. So bear with me. I've been playing Enduro this weekend. I would highly recommend it as a game. I think it's one of Atari's best because it has nighttime driving, it has driving in the snow, you name it, it's got it. Okay. On the back of the unit, this is where the Atari power source plugs into. So remember that. So we're going to put the unit up here. I have a 2600 power unit right here. We're going to bend the antenna out so we get good reception. And then there's two plugs. There's one that goes from the base of the unit into the Atari 2600, and that's the power source. And then there's two plugs, a right one, so this right one goes into the Atari 2600 right plug, and lastly, we're going to take this left plug The biggest issue I found is with this being on a shelf, I try to keep the antenna all the way out, but not enough to bend it. And don't mind that, that's part of my Amiga setup, and that's for a future episode. So we have a big screen TV. So this is Enduro. And I'm not that great at it, Enduro. I will say this, I do think overall it's more difficult with a remote control joystick. I think there is a lag time between using the remote control joystick and the standard joystick, but they're still cool to use. The reason why I like Enduro is it's got nighttime driving. It has ice driving, you name it. And I think putting Enduro or any game on the Atari on a big screen TV, this is a 50-inch, it's 10 years old, so it still takes AVI inputs, cable inputs, and VGA inputs. So I think it's a pretty good TV to buy. And my God, you could get a used one for under $1,000. We're talking less than 500. So, all right, enough of that. I'm going to show you now that we've gone through this. We'll shut this off, and I'm going to show you another accessory from Atari Age called Atari Vox. And it's an accessory that comes with a game you can buy from them that has speech for your Atari. Because remember, Atari is very limited in the amount of speech sounds it can make, and this is actual speech synthesis. So let me show you how to hook that up and what the device looks like on this episode. Alright, enough of Endure. Okay. So this is Juno first with the audiovox and the Atari. There's a little interference. The best thing to do is to buy an Atari's interference regulator, and you can still get those online from Radio Shack. And that's exactly what they're called, is an RF regulator. I'm waiting to die because it will say, it'll talk then. And you have to make sure you have your antenna angled at a decent angle. And I'm trying to get killed here so it will talk. Okay, so first off, we had some technical difficulties. If you notice, we're in another part of my computer lab slash, my kids call it a museum, because I have shelving of about 30 systems and accessories from all over the world. But I'm a believer that if you have something, you should open the box and you should play it. I know that decreases the value, and some people go bonkers over that, but to me, what's the joy of having something sit on a shelf collecting dust when you could be using it? Alright, so Juno First works, it's the game that you can buy that works with the Atari box. There are others that come, but I want you to get a listen to this for what it says.
Atari box list. Ready.
And then let me get a joystick here.
Juno first. Wave 1.
Do you see how far away these work too? Now I'm using a remote control joystick, and look how far away I am from the base station. I don't even have the antenna up. I mean, these things work great. You do get some duds, and sometimes you just have to clean the ports, you know? Now, I'm not the greatest here, but you can accelerate, but I'm trying to get dead because from what I remember, when you're dead,
You have failed.
yes, That's what it says. You have failed. Now, mind you, this is a 26,
Go first. Play one.
and it starts the game over. Now, to me, having an Atari 2600 with the amount of memory that it has and the capabilities, coming from a little box that was less than $100 is phenomenal. So, my whole thoughts on remote control joysticks. To me, I think they're worth it if they work. You have to be careful though. Sometimes the transmitters go
Play
bad.
two.
And when that happens, you have difficulty controlling certain games. And the left or right function. It's slower and there's some lag. Now with this set, this is an off-market set and there's no lag time. I think it works better than the original Ataris. But I would encourage you to go on Facebook Marketplace and purchase these and look for them. I just found a set for $50 and I have an Atari lab that I just built that has the Atari 400, 800, the XL, the XE, and the
Feel
STF.
low. Feel low. Feel low.
It's telling me my fuel's low.
Feel low.
I need to
Feel
dock
low.
at the station. And I have an Atari STF that I'm upgrading the memory. But I use
Play three.
some of the cartridges from Atari age. One of the cartridges that I use on the 2600 that I'll show in a future episode. And here I'll show you here now so you can see it. You have a couple of options. One, you have this card, and this is called the Atari Uno Cart 2600. And it takes wide-based SD cards, and then there's an adapter, and you can hook it up to your PC. The one that I like is the Uno Cart, and it uses a micro SD card that is in this area here. It does connect to the PC, and then you just push and the card comes out. I loaded every single ROM that was available for the 2600. I think I have
Feel
over.
low. Feel low.
I
Feel low.
sorry, that's the Juno.
Feel low.
I think I have over 5,000 games on this right now. So if on eBay you come across one of these, they should be no more than about $100. The same for the other cartridge here. These are a little rare. I've seen these go as much as $250. I've seen these carts go for $300 or $400, but I think it's ridiculous. Look in all of your trade magazines. I'm trying to think of what the cheap one is that's online that has the scary people. Not Facebook Marketplace, but Lori's doing the camera. Yep, Lori remembered. Craigslist. I have bought things off of Craigslist. I will caution you though, sometimes it's not what they say. Things are very beat up, but they'll negotiate the price. And a lot of times I just got a 5200 off there for $20. Mine works, but I need something for parts for mine. And hey, $20 is $20, and this one works. So just keep an eye out there, and I think Facebook Marketplace. But in a future episode, we will go through this. It's got a built-in menu. It's pretty slick. A couple of other things that we're going to go through. This is called the Joy Board, and it's controlled power body control. And you actually, I have one in the box and one on the side. You stand on it while you play a skiing game. And the idea is to lean right and left to control the skier to get through the flags and win. I will tell you this, it's harder than hell. My 13-year-old daughter said this is worse than gymnastics. So I don't know if that puts that in perspective, but I still think it's a rare and very unique accessory. Some of the other things we'll go through are the Atari Kids controller. This was made specifically through conjunction with Sesame Street, and there's a Sesame Street game in here, and the idea was to have overlays, and that tells you what the numbers mean and what they need to do. So if you'd ever come across one, very importantly, if you want to buy it used, make sure they have the overlays, or else it's worthless. And these, 10 years ago, I paid somebody $7 for this. I saw this on eBay for $180. So I think some things are crazy. This will be another episode. This is the CompuMate, and it plugs into the Atari 2600, and it turns it into a basic computer. And you record the programs on a small cassette deck, and it's very difficult to use. The basic language that it uses was not written by Microsoft. It's not C Basic, so I think after having programmed some games on it, it's difficult to use, but it's still cool. And then just other things, like this is a modem that was made for the Atari 2600, and they released them only in California. It plugs in, and then you could dial into a service, and you could pay $5 or $10 a month, and you could play unlimited games if you wanted, which was pretty cool back then. It was an idea ahead of its time. I mean, look at things now. If you want to play a game, what do? Or you want to watch a movie? You pay Netflix a service fee per month, and then you get unlimited movies. It was a great idea. It just didn't catch on. And then last, this is a light gun. It works for the Atari 2600 and the 7800. I have the game for the 2600 it works with. I also have the game for the 7800 it works with. It also works with Bug Hunt from XE. Those guns are gray. Red guns were released very frequently in Australia, so they're a little more rare in the US, which is why I bought this one. And I think that covers enough for now. You can see I've got a whole Texas Instruments area. If you would see my workbench, I have another one of those disc bays that will let me load discs, but the programs won't play. So there's a problem during the loading process, and trying to figure out TI basic language and machine assembly language. They use Fortran in some of it. It's very difficult. So that's going to be a project, but when that's up and running, we'll talk about things. So the only thing I would ask people to do is that if you like what I'm doing, I'm new to this, bear with me with the camera work. I'm reading about how to put in links, like to buy the Atari Vox, but I know you can go to Atari Age and Google it, and Atari Vox comes up and you can buy it. I told you, the Harmony card, they don't make it anymore, but you can buy it used. It's on eBay, but if you join one of the Atari clubs on Facebook, guys put stuff up for sale all the time when they have duplicates, or unfortunately when we get divorced like I did and you have to sell off some of your game systems, things happen. So keep a close eye out there, and the last would be Craigslist, and just meet in a public place like a library. I always meet, we have a local police station that's 10 minutes away. That's where I meet anybody from Facebook or Craigslist. So again, hit like, subscribe. There'll be an episode every week on something new. and we'll talk about things. And please, put in your comments questions you have, and if you have any corrections, let me know. I'm curious if other people have used some of this equipment and what their thoughts are. So please feel free to leave comments, and when I'm free from not being an emergency room doctor, I'd be more than happy to answer your comments and talk to you. Thanks again. Take care.